Um, just in the interest of keeping this short and sweet today, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 2:02 p.m. on Tuesday, March 24th, the Dwight School Building Committee. I myself, Lauren Efren, present here at the table. I also have Nicole Olson and Jason Lee online. Committee members Jeff Galdenzi, John Purcell, Peggy Macaluso, and I believe that is all. Also joining me at the table, Mark Schweitzer from Colliers, and online, Sal Morbido from Fairfield Public Schools. If we could all rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's just get cracking. Number 4 on our agenda, to hear, consider, and approve the CM reference questionnaire. I included it in the backup. It's all the questions that we had discussed last week, complete with the changes. I think the only thing I did is I flip-flopped the last 2. I felt like it sounded better to end on would you work with them again. I think we had discussed it a little bit differently, or it was above, yeah. So Mark's doing it here. I created a separate item just so that we can go ahead and keep that in our files for future building committees to follow along. So yes, Jason. Hi, Angelus.
So I'll make a motion to.
You'll make a motion to approve, okay?
To hear, consider, and approve the.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is a 6-0-0 vote to approve the CM reference questionnaire. Mark, did you have something?
No.
No, okay.
So.
It's okay. Number 5, to hear, consider, and discuss Collier CM Services questions for interviews. Also in the backup. If you guys would like to see what Mark had sent me.
It is up on the screen.
It is up on the screen. Thank you. Okay. Wait, I don't have my glasses on. It's nice for me to see live.
So I'll make a motion to hear, consider, and discuss Collier's questions for the interview.
Do we need to vote on that?
Oh, no, it's not voting.
It's
Never
not a
mind.
voting item.
Sorry.
Okay, good. I was
Let's
getting
have it.
No, I mean, the way that I think I've understood it is that we can discuss it once, sort of like a first read, if you will. Then we provide comment and feedback and make adjustments if we see fit. Then the way I've been doing it is attaching it as a draft, like I just did the CM questionnaire, and then we'll actually vote on it. So this is, for all intents and purposes, for those following along, this is our first read. And this will be for when we have the actual CM firms come in for interviews, which, just for the public, we last week had discussed a certain timeline. It came to our attention that the RFQ for construction management firms was not live on the state website. And our timeline has now shifted just by a week or 2, and we will be having them come in on March 28th. No, April 28th. I was right. April 28th now with our new timeline. And we'll get into that after this. But I do think, just in the interest of kind of keeping with the CM process before we review the timeline, let's go over what we would like to ask them when they are here in front of us. So I see how you've got this broken down into sort of like separate areas, which I appreciate. The general pre-construction bidding and the construction, and then there was one final for the closeout.
Yep.
Again, we had already talked about the references, so that's done. These are a lot of questions. Obviously, I think, Mark, you had mentioned that a lot of these will be answered in the course of their presentation. So we may not need to even consider, all of them, but these are all important. So let's just kind of go through and we'll break them down a little bit at a time. And just also for reference, I think we're really grateful, obviously, to have you guys on board because you have done this multiple times and you've seen how other towns handle it. And so this is sort of like a compilation of questions that other building committees have asked potential CM firms.
And some of these questions might not apply, but they might tickle somebody to jog someone's memory for another question
Okay.
that is important to them.
Okay, so guys, we're just gonna go ahead and crack through. First question under general. How will the project be staffed and managed both on-site and within the company office? What are the roles of your team members? If I remember correctly, with A&E, in their presentations, in their slide decks that they gave us, they presented everybody from their team that was gonna be working on the project. Obviously not the entire company, but just who specifically was gonna be on our project. And I would assume that they would do the same thing
Yes.
here as well, so we may
We'll
not.
ask for that. We'll also ask in the RFP, we will dictate what their proposal will be based on as far as full-time, like a full-time PM, full-time project engineer, full-time superintendent. And then if we need any other support staff or whatever, we can dictate that as well. But we will dictate a minimum amount of staff. That way we can level them off and
that for,
compare companies to across the board.
Across the board, okay, and that's
Yeah.
obviously so that we don't have some company who's like, okay, we're gonna have 20 people on the job all the time, whereas someone else might be able to do it in 5, right? For example. Okay, so, I'm not gonna suggest any changes to that, hopefully it will be covered again. But I think it's helpful to note that we need to at least see that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't see that, yeah.
Then there's a
definitely ask the question, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, most of the firms will have who they're gonna staff it with.
Yeah,
Now, if it's full-time or part-time that'll come out in the proposal.
okay. Number 2, who will be the primary contacts from your team for this project, and does it change from bidding to construction phases? Now, this is my first rodeo, so I don't know why it would change, but I'm guessing that you may have different.
There are
People who are-
some there are some firms that will have like a pre-construction manager, and you'll see them all the way through pre-con. Once you hit the GMP, they bow out and
Someone else
and
comes
the
in.
PM comes on, yeah.
Should be a smooth transition when that happens. Should be.
So it shouldn't be a red
Yeah,
flag,
it
it's
shouldn't
okay
be.
for that to, that's kind of standard.
Others will have, like, the project exec will stay on for the whole time, and maybe the project manager or people working on pre-con will change once they get to the field. But the project exec should remain.
Okay. Still a question worth having in case they have a different.
Approach to it, yep.
A different approach to it. All right, number 3, describe your understanding of the method for establishing the initial and final contract price. It's good to know. Do you think they'll cover that? Is that like a
This
basic?
should be covered as well. I mean, we've got 3 estimate and reconciliation periods. We should have we'll have a good idea of what the bid price is gonna be when we go out to bid.
Okay,
I mean, the final contract price is, initial contract price is the GMP. And that'll be done through the reconciliations and the bid and award.
is there negotiations in there? Is that why there's a difference between initial and final contract price?
There are change orders in there.
Change orders as in like the number of something that we order.
This is for public and private clients as well. So the final price, contract price on private work does change from the initial. So they will, there is negotiation on a private job in the public
We don't have
job.
to worry about it.
We don't have to worry about it.
Correct.
Thank you.
There you
I
go.
needed that.
If you want to learn more,
Well,
but we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, but when the
Yes and
question
no.
is, do you understand the method for establishing the initial and final contract price. That, are you telling me that that only applies to private, so it wouldn't apply to us in a public?
Well, no,
Project?
there are scope reviews and there are, if there's scope gaps in it, some CMs will try to get the allowances. There's an identified piece of scope that is not bought out. They'll try to put an allowance in for it. So
Okay,
there's
sometimes wiggle room.
there are sometimes, it's not as clear cut as the bid is the bid.
To say it nice in a public forum, those are the oops kind of things that pop up where you don't say oops when you hear about it. Those are the things, and then that's something happens that it's, oh, we didn't expect this, or oops, something here happened. We need some extra funding, that they all work it out, and you'll see it. Everything's wide open about it, and then that's where.
Is this a question that is worth asking if we don't see it? I'm assuming number 1 and 2 will be established early on during their, their presentation. But if there's a question, something that wouldn't typically come up that we should ask, I feel like number 3 might be worth asking.
Depending on who we get shortlisted,
Okay.
they'll cover this in there.
They'll cover it? Okay. Well, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to number 4, unless somebody has any strong feelings about that one. I just wanted to understand it better.
Yeah, I think it's a great one.
I think so too. Number 4, why do you feel your firm is best suited to manage this project? That feels a little generic. What would you consider your firm's X factor that differentiates it from the other construction management firms? Sure. I mean, I would assume the number of projects that you've completed, the amount of business that you've already done within this town might.
If the CM firm doesn't cover it in their presentation, gives them the opportunity to,
Okay.
take to this is the end. This is why you want to pick us.
Okay.
And I think, keep in mind, Laura, like I said, what we learned from me and you from the architectural ones, I'm gonna take our questions and I'm gonna, however many interviews we have, I'm gonna print out that many pages, and once they answer the question, I'm just gonna strike it out.
I love that idea, and I thought it was really helpful for
Yeah.
us. And then also, during the interview, I could be like, okay, you can handle these.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm gonna want you to handle.
And I
all
could
of
just jot down like a quick little short answer, so if somebody's like, wait, I don't understand, I didn't hear it, I'll be like, we'll go over it after and get them out of the room and
it. Okay.
move on.
I think that's a good one, so let's keep it in even though it feels a bit generic. Pre-construction bidding, how will you manage the bidding process? Again, I feel like there's probably an industry standard, but maybe some firms are different or.
Some firms go differently. In a public bid job, you want to get as much interest in as many bids as you can on each bid package, because they're going to take the project and break it down to, on a job this size, probably between 20 and 30 bid packages, and then individually bid those out. You also have CHRO requirements set aside,
I'm sorry, I'm really bad with the acronym.
No, I
yes,
know.
thank you.
CHRO.
Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, thank you. I always get that, the O always screws me up.
From purchasing in here for Dan.
There's contract language we need to include when there's a certain amount of state funding involved in projects. So not a heavy lift on us, but we just need to make sure certain language is included and things like that.
And that the CM is aware that they've got to meet these goals.
Okay.
Does that also?
Let's put it this way, Laura, at some points, I would buy glass for people that had nothing to do with me, and I would make like 10% off the job simply because I was a woman-owned business and they had to hit the criteria. So all I had to do was exist as a female in the industry, and I won the bid, and I had nothing to do with the purchasing or the selling. They just had to go through me. It's to make sure that you're having enough women, minority-owned businesses within the public bid. There are minimums on that.
Yes.
It's a DEI
The
program.
more important question, though, is, does that cover their background checks on the subcontractors and people because they're on the school ground and on the
Yes.
school property? Or is that a total different
That's a total.
section?
That's a
That's a total different section?
I mean, that brings up kind of an odd question for me as a mom. I take it, and I'd like to believe that they would run background checks on all of their employees and not allow anyone with a scattered history onto a school ground project, correct?
On the past projects, we've had background checks.
Okay. On all workers.
On all workers.
Everybody.
Okay, that makes me feel more
And then
comfortable. I've never dealt with this before, so
the-
that just was like.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
we're on a job I'm at now with the system that the town has, the construction manager is given an actual Raptor station, and they run their employees through, especially if they're going into the occupied buildings.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say, well, luckily, there's not gonna be a need for them to be in our occupied building.
And then they actually update you on their employee, like if, like if something happens, they'll tell you, hey.
Well, yeah, I'm guessing that
They're, like, legally bound
these
to.
workers shouldn't have any need to exit the fenced-in area of the construction job.
They don't, but,
Okay, I feel just because we're,
Right.
it's a good tangent, but
Right.
I want
We
to
just want to make sure they're all properly
Vetted.
vetted.
vet it. Okay,
Okay.
but, so how will you manage the bidding process? Good basic question.
Yep, good basic question.
6, how do you pre-qualify subcontractors? I'm curious, I have no idea. Adam, sorry, since you're here and not at the table, but still, I would like to know, is this something that you guys do for the town side on any other projects? I mean, for all intents and purposes, like if you have like, this is the RFQ part is the pre-qualification now?
I'm thinking about state pre-qual and like bigger projects will have, the state has a pre-qualification system and will confirm that contractors are on that list. They need
And
to
if they're
like,
not on the list, we don't consider them.
You cannot consider.
We cannot consider them.
Correct.
So we, okay, we
It's
can't be
a-
like, we heard that this subcontractor firm is really great at supplying whatever tiles, can
Right.
you?
So like,
Sam.gov stuff?
if let's
it's
just,
similar, they have to register, they have to sign up
Yeah.
to be
If
pre-qualified.
their contract is going to be over a certain threshold, they've got to be qualified for that threshold.
and they have to carry the right insurance and
Yeah.
this and that.
Okay,
The state does most of that work, we just kind of check.
Just make sure that they're pre-qualified, DAS pre-qualified.
Like, I'm curious to
but
see.
since they're the ones hiring the subcontractors, not necessarily
It's-
us.
the
it's how-
burden's
it's the
on them.
burden's on them.
But they go to a select list too. They can't just go, oh, you're gonna do it. Because they have to be on that state approved
Someone's
list.
nephew can't just all of a
So-
sudden say, I like to glue tile to the floor, and he can suddenly put it in. No.
Okay. Number 7, are you willing to solicit bids from owner-preferred contractors?
This is more of a
Again,
private, but
Yeah,
this
that
is
we don't
We don't
also
have that.
I mean,
right?
we can't. From what you said, it's lowest bid wins.
lowest bid wins, but if there is a contractor that the town wants to at least be known that, hey, this job is coming out and the particulars of the bid process, we can have the CM reach out to them and say, hey, we are bidding this, the bid is
Okay.
issued, or the drawings are being issued on April 7th, and, you can pick it up from the procurement portal, and if you want to bid on it, this is, you gotta follow what's in there.
Okay. So we keep it in, even though it doesn't necessarily apply for us?
I think it's, I look at it sort of like Mark was saying, sort of the opposite of how you're thinking about it. We want to make sure that it's not just signed, sealed, and delivered with vendors that they know and trust, that they'd be open to seeking
So
out.
suggestions from us if we have existing
We
relationships.
can also ask for their bid list prior to even going out. And who have they contacted through pre-construction to drum up interest,
You can, at this point also, but unlike different, like the first part with the architect, if they have lists, like let's just say roofers, that we've had bad relationships with bad work, you can
Yeah.
actually tell them they
No,
can't
we
even.
can't do that.
You can't even consider them.
Okay,
No, well, that's good
okay,
to
so
know.
so are you willing is really just, are they gonna be open to this or not? And if they're not, then that's a flag, okay. Do you feel, number 8, do you feel the overall project schedule included in the RFP is adequate for the size and scope of this project? Well, obviously, we've had a lot of talk about the
That's a big
project
question,
schedule.
isn't it?
They've looked at it. But this can also lead into.
Are there ways for them to shorten it?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Number 9, what is your view of the challenges and opportunities on this project? I wonder how much they're going to know and have followed along at this point. They'll know. Okay.
I'm sure they've been following along.
Topography,
Is it this
Occupied
Friday or
site.
was it last Friday that you repeated your online?
this Friday, this coming Friday.
This coming- Okay.
I would think that these construction management firms will be very curious about the rotary on Reading. If they have not driven it already. I would think that's going to be something that they're going to have to figure out
They're
how to
gonna want to
do.
know about the mud.
The mud,
The mud.
getting around it, they're big trucks. I don't know how they're going to do that every
Like everybody
daily.
else does.
Okay, let's jump ahead to construction. Number 10, please provide a brief overview of your safety program. Something that they all must have, I'm sure,
They
okay.
are required to have it.
Are they gonna give us a little presentation on their safety program?
They might have a slide on it, but they can definitely talk to it.
Yeah. Everybody has a different name for their program. They get something cutesy. Everybody uses different things, but at the end of the day, they all have to keep a binder for OSHA. I had to keep a binder for OSHA. I had 5 people working for me. I had to keep a massive binder for OSHA. So they're going to show it to you and tell you. All
And they put, when you go into their little thing, they tell you 8 days, 20 days, 300 days, no accidents kind of thing.
Oh.
That's the worst.
And then they get rewarded. They reward their staff and their contractor, not having an accident, they get a pizza truck or a, cookout. So they're actually very good
They're
on that.
incentivized.
Very incentivized.
Okay. Number 11, how is quality control maintained during construction? I mean, I would assume that they've got people coming and checking like OSHA inspectors.
No.
No?
God willing, no.
Okay.
Now, the quality control is going to be on them.
Us?
Is on them.
They all have their own safety guy. So OSHA doesn't have to walk the site because each construction company has a safety guy working for them who goes to all their different sites throughout the week and makes sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to because they don't want OSHA involved.
Well, beyond safety though, like, how do I make sure that, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what a quality control issue on a building like this would be.
I mean, a quality
There's
control
plenty of-
issue should be where you're procuring your materials from, where your
Well-
subs are procuring their materials from.
The during construction is it solely on the superintendent that is out there in the field? Is it on the project engineer? Is there daily walks? Is there weekly?
I keep thinking about that example that
Prints.
someone told us about how they built a wall with a window, right, in between the wall divider.
Oh, yes, between the wall dividers, and they couldn't decide who was at fault for it. I forget where that
Yeah.
was. But it was one of those classrooms where you can close the wall and make it into 2 breakout spaces, or if
Okay.
need be, if the school started overflowing, you could open up the wall and use it as one large classroom. And they hung the curtain wall, it was directly like on a window, so you really could never close it off and have it soundproof between the 2 rooms. And then it became, well, whose fault is this? What do we do? How do we handle it? And the building was already like pretty much ready to be occupied except for
So
that.
maybe that could be a 2-part question. How's quality control maintained during construction? And if,
Can you give us an example of when you've had an instant, if they.
how you handled it?
How you handled it? Yeah.
It should answer, this is one of those they'll answer.
I want just like an honest answer.
They'll
Just
answer
tell
it
us,
when they're
problems happen.
presenting,
Yep.
usually. Like, they
Okay.
should tell you, the quality control, like, because there's gonna be a lot of weekends.
Give
and
us an
things,
example. I want an
like,
example.
Are people on staff, are people there, you know?
Okay.
You do have a hand up.
All right, so could you give us an example?
How do you handle it?
You have a hand, Peggy?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, Peggy. I'm sorry. Did you have your hand up and I didn't notice it? I apologize.
That's okay. Is there a way to find out their record as far as OSHA violations or
Yes.
fines?
Their EMR. Their EMR rating.
Yes.
We'll get it from the subcontractors.
I'm sorry,
That'll
can
be
I
that.
have that acronym?
EMR rate.
Emergency, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's an insurance rating, and it's a ratio of,
Experience modification rate.
Oh.
A number used by insurance companies to measure a company's safety record and predict future risk.
Okay.
anything less than 1 is good, anything trending up above 1 is not good. You can't disqualify a subcontractor for having an EMR over 1. It's just some of the CMs will handle them differently.
We keep a closer eye.
They'll probably require their safety director weekly visits, and if it's trending down, it's, the EMR is a good rating, but you've got to use it.
Is that worth an ask, maybe, Peggy? Maybe we add that in?
Would they know their own EMR rating, typically?
Off the top of their head, probably not.
Is there a website where we can go on and look, since it's OSHA?
I don't believe it is OSHA.
Oh.
These guys have a bad record, they would be
But
whacked
But
hard.
you're also talking about the construction managers that aren't doing any work. They're not swinging a hammer, they're not doing, we want to make sure that the subcontractors, that they
Yeah, the
provide
subs.
their, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So maybe we,
But if there are a lot of like some of these subcontractors, there's a lot of OSHA problems and stuff, that being on that state list, they can be removed up if they do continuous things that just don't live up to the expectations of state and OSHA, so. Without diving too deep into that at the beginning, it also depends on who the construction management company we pick before you can jump into that.
Yeah.
It's a good question, Peggy. I'm wondering how we frame it as a question or if it's a pre-qualifying item perhaps instead.
Do you ask for the EMR rating on the bid form?
No. You wait until because here's the thing, if the OSHA, it also depends on, in this case, who the subcontractors are hiring is affecting the thing, right? So if you pick a management company, and let's be real, if there are only 2 companies that you can do business with in the state, and they have high OSHA accidents, it's almost, you can't do anything else.
You can't disqualify them for having a high EMR.
Right.
But you've got to make sure that the CM and the subcontractor are aware that the subcontractor has a high EMR, because they will be treated differently.
We always had, can I jump in here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sal, sure, go ahead.
Historically, we looked for the modification rate that would be 1.0 or less. That
Okay.
we've always had that. That was a requirement, and they can present. The issue is that there can be one pending issue that could drive up the number above 1.0.
that was what I was just thinking about.
But they can present their information, and the story that I was told by purchasing directors long gone by, many years ago, that somebody was quite adamant. It's all because of this one thing, and once you see the facts, you'll understand and you won't have a problem. And when the facts were presented about why their rate was over to 1.0, it was like, gee whiz, they were driving 100 miles an hour passing a stopped school bus on the right. It was a pretty horrific accident that they were involved with, and and we kindly said, no, you didn't allay our fears of working with you, and they were DQ'd because their
Okay.
EMR
So
was over 1.0.
you're making it sound to me like it's definitely a question worth asking as part of the construction section.
And it's
I think so.
It should be something that they present to us.
They should
I-
present it to us.
It should be actually something that they're showing their latest rate in their submittal
Okay,
before we even questioning it.
okay.
Get ahead of it.
Peggy, thank you.
Buried in
Oh, I think
You're
Peggy.
welcome. Just one follow-up question. Is a higher than one EMR a way to disqualify a sub that you don't want to have on the job?
No, he just said you
Yeah.
can't, you cannot discriminate against them for a high EMR rating. That's not allowed legally.
But wait,
It's tough, it's tougher to disqualify them, and it's, like Sal was saying, it depends on the circumstances.
Because you don't know what just happened. Like I have an instance that'll kind of. There's an excavating company out of Norwalk that they got caught in a trench just at 5 feet, no trench box. OSHA cited them, yelled at them, and said, "Don't do it again." They were off in the woods like 3 months later, and OSHA made it a particular moment to go out and check on them. And once again, the owner had an employee in a 5 foot deep trench without it. That owner, it was a partnership. And the first owner was the original, and he hired his best friend, and they've been partners for 15 years. He fired his best friend. And instantly that rating was stuck there, but he showed OSHA, he showed the state, I am serious about safety. So that one instance can raise your number up, but it could be that you took it very seriously and you're making it better. And you're bringing in a safety specialist, you redid your OSHA 30, you redid your OSHA 10. There's a whole bunch of things that they could have just done that it's like, hey, my EMR rating, if you called me 6 months ago, it was 0. But right now it's a 1.5 because I have one manager who felt he was above the law and he got caught. So if they
he's
fire
gone now.
him, then and now he's gone. It's like you can't.
all right, so here's what we could do
You
is
gotta
ask
ask
for
the
an
questions.
EMR, what the rating is, and
Yeah.
then give them the
But it's
opportunity up front
Yeah.
to explain why
But it's definitely a great point she makes. We should be asking, and now I know what it stands for. Never bothered learning what
Okay,
that.
I've already
I
forgotten.
actually forgot where we are, and here, please provide maintaining construction, how often, wait, I don't.
We were
don't
on
do
11,
12.
we're on to 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you manage and control the construction schedule, and how often is it updated? How do you handle slippage? Can someone tell me what slippage is?
Like the
You're supposed to hit a milestone of this Friday, and you hit it next Friday.
Yeah.
How do you make up that week?
Are you going to make up for it, or are you just going to try and kick the can down the road and push down the?
Or more appropriately is why do we not know that you may miss it Friday until Friday comes and then, oh, it's next Friday. You should know,
Biggest pet peeve.
right? And it could be a delivery issue, could be, the mud's too wet, it's raining, whatever. There
Yeah.
could be a lot of reasons,
There was a
but,
flood.
right, but don't tell us
Yeah.
Monday night, oh, yeah, it wasn't done. Don't tell us on Friday, oh, it's not done because,
So it's a good question all around, and it worded exactly like this. It's a three-parter. I like it.
Fine.
All right, number 13, please describe what management software you use to track RFIs, submittals, contract documents, scheduling, et cetera. I assume they all have
There's
their
a
own
bunch of different
software.
ones.
There's a bunch
Yeah.
of different ones, yeah, okay.
They don't create their own, but there's a bunch of different online programs. And actually, I would like to know, will we as a committee have access to that? Like, just viewable access.
That's,
You can ask it.
I'm getting that with my home construction from my little remodeler. I'm being given a whole construction schedule that automatically flex, so I can go in there at any moment and see what's going on.
Okay.
Because that won't annoy them at all.
They may say no. You gotta have that.
They shouldn't say no, because they should be as transparent as possible.
yes.
that's a lot of documents. I mean, if you want to have access to it, have access to it, but.
Well, a lot of times you're just looking at the main schedule, you're looking at the overall.
Scheduled RFIs,
Yeah.
submittals, you're not looking,
I'm just thinking if,
access to their financial side is probably not.
No, of course not financials, but
Right.
if when it
Just
comes,
the schedule.
like you just said, I don't want to find out on Friday that you're not making it on Friday. So if I'm able to see their schedule and I'm like, hey, those doors were supposed to be done by Friday, which meant that, and they were supposed to be delivered last week. The doors aren't even here yet. It's Wednesday. They're not going to be done with the doors. And
know
why
about
haven't you
that
brought this to my
in the OAC.
attention yet?
you'll know about that once a week if someone attends their OAC meetings.
Yes.
And Mark does, so you'll know once a week where they are in the update, and usually they're pretty open, and that's where you find out what's
Yeah.
going on. That's not a public meeting, but just like people in the building committee and their select group.
I think it's a good question. Let's leave it. Let's ask
Yep.
if we can access it.
Yep.
14, it is highlighted because it's very pertinent to our specific project. How much experience do the primary team members have with construction on a site of an occupied building? On a site with an occupied building.
I love it.
Yeah, they are going to be within feet of an occupied building.
Small children.
With small children and a very steep slope next to it. So they're going to need to prove to us that they can
Yeah.
handle.
Yeah, because there's classrooms on that side.
Yeah, you can't just put up a fence and expect everything's going to stay on the
No.
side of the fence. There needs to be multiple layers, I think, of, I don't know, I'm just picturing pipes falling down a hill. Sorry. Okay.
I see a lot of little kid, they're gonna do little cutouts.
I know. They're all going to be
See,
very curious.
But all the more reason she's right. Like, think about it. Are they stupid enough to, is somebody on that job site all of a sudden one day stupid enough to stack pipes on that side of the schoolyard? The answer should be never, ever, ever, ever. But this is the reason safety
There are
rules
people on
exist.
site that are stupid enough to do
There's
that,
a
but there
reason
are-
they have to
there's
put
quality
it-
control
Yes.
over the top.
Quality
of it.
control that
Exactly.
takes care of all that.
There's a reason when you
Okay.
walk into the TSA, they say you can't bring a cattle prod on a plane, and that's because some moron at one point tried to bring a cattle prod on a plane. Like, these rules exist because somebody already made the mistake.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to know.
So
Especially
let's
since
ask, it's worth asking.
It's worth asking.
All right, what,
For sure.
number 15, what are the most concerning construction logistics issues?
Yep.
Yeah, sure, outline it for us. And how do you plan to manage them?
I'm thinking it's going to be kind of right back to that other question, but we'll let them answer it.
Yep.
That it's going to be how close they are to an occupied building with small
I think that's a pretty,
Pick up,
it's
drop
a
off
pretty
time.
obvious one. They should be
Yeah.
able to outline that for us, and we should definitely make sure that they've
I mean,
answered
if they,
it.
if they don't understand it, they're gonna get into tariffs and oil prices and stuff like that too.
That's true, it's all coming up. Okay, let's go to closeout. 16, how do you define substantial completion?
This
came up a lot.
substantial completion is
Right.
defined in the contract,
It is.
but
How do they define it?
how do they define it?
Which is different than how we could define it. Okay, so let's make sure that we have an.
Do they see that contract before they come in?
Yes.
Yeah.
So at their
have to
interview,
sign
we
it.
can ask them, do they agree with our with our?
They-
I don't think they'll see it yet.
They will have their exceptions in their proposal,
Okay.
just like the architects did.
Okay. Are there any major red flags that we should look out for, Mark, that you can think of that would be they see it differently than how we see it
On what?
for a substantial completion?
No, I mean, depending on if you do get an oddball answer, they haven't worked school construction.
Okay.
Substantial completion is 2 weeks before teachers come back.
Everything
Depends
but.
Depends on the project, right? Mill Hill was,
There
Mill Hill, they were coming
there are
in.
days where the teachers are coming in the front door and the construction workers are leaving the back door.
Oh, yeah, that
But
happens a lot.
substantial completion is defined on the contract, and it is basically beneficial use of the building.
Okay.
Occupy and beneficial use.
Number 17, what is your process for developing and completing the punch list for a project? Very key, very good to
This
know,
is-
because of course there's gonna be something.
This is also defined in the contract, but this
Okay.
is, each CM firm will have a different take and different way to, that they.
Well, I talked to someone's reference who said that a year and a half after the project was completed, they were still on their punch list.
Yep.
So I wanna know how they handle it. 18, what is your process for closing out a project and when do you start the closeout process?
It sounds weird.
It does. What does that sound like a
But wouldn't
pitch?
they start the closeout process once they believe they're done?
Why would they drag it out? Money.
Well, the correct answer is, in pre-construction, they start the closeout process.
Oh, okay.
Or day one of construction.
Oh.
Because you don't want to be clawing stuff back from, you don't want to go through construction and then claw back everything, the
So,
The as-bills, you don't want to go back and recreate your as-bills on the last day of the project. You want to be continuously doing those as you go through the project.
so to see if I can understand it correctly. You're gonna be closing out your masonry once the walls are going up because the foundation's done.
The,
Like you're closing things out as you feel they are completed?
no, you're gonna, well, as the subcontractors are completing their work, especially on the underground
Yeah.
utilities.
Yeah, those guys will be off the job site for a full year before the job's actually, before kids are walking in the door.
Correct, but like the underground plumbing, you don't want them to, you want them, as they lay the plumbing in the ground, before they cover it up with the slab, you want them to take where the layout is
Yeah.
and put that on a plan
Double check
for
their
for
layout,
the
yeah.
as-bills, yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, until they punch out, they don't get paid, these subcontractors. Usually the
Retained.
final check, it
Correct.
depends on the punch
Yeah,
out.
then they get
So
their
like a
final
plumber
payment.
that does the work and he doesn't come back forever,
They'll never get this final payment.
right, so unless they punch out.
Okay. So there's an incentive for them to want to close out.
Yes,
Okay.
there's an incentive for the CM to close the subcontractors out as well.
Right. Okay. Number 19, how does your firm ensure that, this is good because I remember this coming up
Yeah.
with A&E. How does your firm ensure the specified materials are readily available within the U.S. to minimize potential delays to the schedule and costs due to tariffs on materials procured from overseas?
And this also goes to long lead items as well.
Yeah.
Switch.
During COVID and all that, everything was get your materials, get them stored on site and,
Yeah.
have the materials waiting for the men. not the
Is that
other
a
way.
practice that, like, for HVAC that you guys did,
HVAC,
knowing what
Dwight,
had happened during COVID?
we were smart enough during that COVID thing, we ordered everything out front. I mean, just ordered it.
Yeah.
And then we found out what got delayed and what didn't. That's why,
Lead times went crazy during
They-
COVID.
they could finish stuff, but
About
the
to.
one thing they couldn't finish was actually turn it on because they had to wait for a little box,
Yeah.
legitimately a box. Took a year and a half to get. But once it came in, everything was already set up. They installed the box, they flipped the switch and away we went.
But
Yes.
you had all the
But everything,
majority of.
right, the job doesn't stop if they do their job right.
Okay.
Material procurement is key.
It is key. All right, so that's a really good question. Let's make sure that we ask that. Final question from Closeout. What green initiatives have you incorporated into your school projects and what opportunities may be available on this project? I think this would be a natural segue into the ICF question. And really anything, geothermal, any of the things that we have heard about or seen or discussed already.
What's the track record?
I think ICF needs to be brought up, like, call it out. The other stuff, the geothermal, they're all
Like
used
during
to.
the RFP?
Yeah, they're used
Adam, could
to.
we add that into the RFP? That, like, ICF
ICF is being strongly considered.
Like, we're strong, right? Because if,
or geothermal wells?
well, geothermal, all these guys are used to,
Yeah.
They'll have
they've
done
done
that.
it.
So
The
I
ICF is obviously, as we know, it's only been done once or twice. But at least if we bring it up, they can actually start looking and say, oh, we can do this, we can get these people. Because if you remember, one of the architects that we shortlisted flat out said, no way. Now, if they had known that before, well, he submitted,
Okay.
right?
So
And
if we could get it, we just don't want to call them out at the table. We didn't do it necessarily with the architectural firms, include it in the RFP, because I think we were still kind of finding out about it ourselves. I think we all feel substantially more educated about the process, and we hope that at least the CMs will be able to say outright, yes, they've done it, or no, they haven't. And maybe they've done it on private, but not on public. Like, I'd like to know what their experience was with it.
or if they haven't done it, do they have the right subcontractors that can do it?
Sure.
That's the big one, is finding it. And then,
Because I think that is what we've noticed is the biggest pitch to moving forward with that, is that there's just not enough experience in Connecticut so far, at least for the for public schools. We know of a handful, literally, that have done it or are in the process of doing it. So I think it'll be key to know whether or not, yes.
So it's no problem I can issue very easily some sort of addendum or public notice, clarify.
It's not a must-have, but it's a have you. We'd like to know.
It's a potential, right?
Just saying that-
I can throw it in the RFP as well.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Be included in the
That
RFP.
makes-
It doesn't
Sorry.
need to be,
Or in the RFP.
not the RFQ.
Gotcha.
Well, let's not delay that any further. Let's-
How about
let's-
septic experience?
Oh, that's a good
It
one.
would be a subcon, I'm sure,
That
most of them will have it.
subcontractor list for septic, even on a private home, is very small. So I'm kind of curious on a larger scale.
I mean, most public schools do not have
We
septic.
don't have septic, and most
That's a lot.
most
And this
homes.
is gonna be a big thing that they have to do. They have to take care of the old one and they have to replace.
Well, Mark's saying it's not as uncommon on public schools as I would have thought.
Okay.
Yeah, but they take
Weston is all on septic.
No?
Every single, their elementary, middle, and high school is all septic.
Can you leave it, and you can leave this septic in ground, right?
Huge.
Okay, what do you do, Phil?
No, you go fields, and you,
Yeah.
You just leave the big thing empty and.
Well, you need a temporary septic, don't you, if you built a new school? Because you still have the old school going. You gotta figure out how you're gonna do all that.
Well, I thought that they said that the new septic could go directly next to the old septic and not interfere with the day-to-day, was what I recall from like months ago, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so
that's to the
I'm,
engineers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm,
They're gonna figure out
I
how
mean,
to
if
do
if
that.
it's not important because there's more common, then
It's,
then we don't need.
It's a heavy boys' school, we can just send them outside.
Walking trails are for.
so
Exactly.
20 questions. Which reminds me of the game. I think they're all worth asking and making sure that they've answered them.
Yeah.
I would say we keep every single one and just add in.
I think we're gonna be crossing out a lot of them as they give their
Yeah.
presentation, but I think it's worth noting their answers for each one.
But let's be sure to include the ICF in the RFP, and let's add on the EMR rating during the construction. Could we,
Can you scroll back down, Mark, a second? There was something I was just gonna ask and I forget now. It was the second to last question. How does your firm ensure them to Are we allowed to ask them, like, what's the longest delay you've had?
oh, for the material order?
Like, have you ever had a job substantially delayed due to insufficient materials?
Oh, I'm sure they're gonna say yes.
Yeah, because like,
they all have war
Recent one.
stories.
they could say it's a 2-year wait because they had to wait on the switch box.
And generators back then was, depending on the size, could be a year and a half out.
Like that kind of stuff they can't, but if they don't order it until like today, when they should order it last week,
Right.
that's a big
I think
difference.
the benefit
And
is
the
gonna
current
be
environment
having them
thing.
on board with us early enough,
Yeah.
that hopefully they'll see what we need to order ahead of time, and they're not gonna just wait until the final documents are signed. Well, we can ask them this, right, as a part of their schedule. Are they waiting until everything is signed, sealed, and delivered before they start ordering, or are they gonna start their process early in the, knowing that we may have delays with tariffs and whatnot?
Or ICF comes in handy.
Again, this goes to, there's one GMP, with the long lead items that affect schedule, say a generator that is 2 years out versus, and you only have a 20-month schedule,
Yeah.
they'll identify that during pre-construction. They might not order it, but we could get the stuff that the town purchases it on their own.
Yeah.
And provides it to the project.
And says, okay, now you have to design around this whether you like it or
Correct.
not. Okay,
Correct.
I think that's a good thing to know.
There is
I wasn't sure
different
of
ways
that.
around it.
I was just gonna ask that, like, are
right.
there ways around, like, us saying, like, okay, generators are having issues, like, we all know what has issues in the
Correct. And-
pipeline, so it's like, let's just get those and you're using these and design around
Right,
this.
well, if the town purchases it, well, on a generator, we can go find we can publicly solicit bids for a certain size generator. And whoever it's low bid wins, as long as they have the scope. Correct.
Okay. Let's, for now, Mark, I'm gonna have you include all 20 of those questions. Does
Okay.
anybody feel like they wanna add one more? Or adjust anything now? Because what I'd like to do is have him put this into a draft, just like the CM reference questionnaire, and we will vote it through at our next meeting. And then we can just adopt that as the questions that we're gonna be sure are asked. Yes, Angelus?
Ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
Any thought about adding a question to them as to what their experience or what their training looks like for staff, district staff as they complete the project? Or, you know, HVAC, you guys talked about some, you know, you're talking about putting equipment into buildings that my staff would have no idea what they're looking at, so we would need
Training for
training for
the
district
on-site staff, yeah.
For the future, yeah.
A couple of the architecture and engineer firms talked about that.
Yeah.
I don't know how it fell under their
It's-
They
purview,
specify it.
but
Fair.
they did talk about making sure that there was a, and I believe Tecton was one of the.
Yeah, that there's like an entire binder and maintenance schedule created.
That they even
And
made
on-site
like
training.
videos of how to operate the equipment and then hand the, like, you know, a hard drive with the videos, but it's worth asking.
Correct me if I'm
How
wrong.
do
A
you,
question of like what level of training, because
Yeah.
like you said, a binder of how to operate this equipment is great for my first-hand guys, but my licensed guys, I would want to have them factory
Send away.
certified to repair and
Okay.
maintain this equipment, not just
That's
how
a-
to operate it.
Yeah.
so could we add that in at, would that be closeout or construction? I'm thinking.
Yeah, we can put it into closeout.
Okay.
That'll be, that should almost went to the architects because they're the ones that specify the training.
That's what I was just wondering,
CMs
do
would.
architect, it seemed like the architects brought that up quite a bit.
Correct me
But
if
that
I'm
is
wrong.
typical of Fairfield to get, like when we switched to Mitsubishi was new, the cassettes, we got training for them at the Mitsubishi factory.
Yes, they flew them out there.
For the factory
So
training.
let's craft a question for the closeout section.
Because here's
What
the,
level of training do you provide on-site maintenance staff? I don't know if that's the
Because
term you want to use.
the punch list to the town.
To be able to operate all systems, all electrical engineering systems within the building,
Because
post-construction.
the punch list,
I'm sorry, that's my, I'm sure you can word it better, Mark, but I think it's a good question, Angelus, and worth asking. And even though that it's been brought up by, you know, the architecture,
You'll hear me
doesn't
ask
mean
it
that
over
the
and over.
CM is gonna be on board with that. And they're the ones installing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bringing in the subcontractors, I would think that they would have a vested interest to make sure that people know how to operate it correctly.
correct me if I'm wrong also, the town, because it's a punch list for the town too. You don't have to, like with HVAC, you don't have to punch off until your staff gets trained.
Correct.
I believe that actually happened, where they
It
said,
has
no,
happened,
they're not
yeah.
trained properly, and they actually came out and trained, so
Okay.
that's important.
All right, so that's a great additional question, thank you. So Mark, I will rely on you to get that in a draft form for us, that we can vote on that
Yep.
next meeting. Jeff, I apologize, I really tried to move it along, I know you have a hard stop at 3:00, but I'm hoping that Mark is going to, I'm moving along, sorry, to number 6, to hear, consider, and discuss the review of the new timeline for the CM RFQP process. And just again, to bring the public up to date, we had a situation occur where the RFQ for CM services was unfortunately not live on the state website. And so we couldn't have all the firms statewide view it. That's since been corrected. And we're seeing a lot more activity on it. And so we decided to delay, there was an initial period where they were allowed to ask questions and do a virtual site tour. Now we're gonna have to do that again. So anyway, Mark's gonna walk us through the
Yeah,
new
real
timeline.
quickly,
But I'm also hoping that you'll send this to us. Yes, okay.
I
So
can send this to you.
Jeff, if you need to go, that is okay. We'll make
Okay.
sure you get it.
Qualifications were due on the 26th, and we're going to shortlist on the 7th. With the addendum 1, it pushed everything essentially 2 weeks. So instead of, the first virtual site tour was the 13th. We have a second one on the 27th. Questions
March
for,
27th.
yes.
Okay, qualifications were due.
Well, questions are due on the 31st of
Oh.
March,
Okay.
and we were listing the addendum as the 2nd of April. Again, in Bonfire, they're rolling questions, so we can answer them as we get them. But as of the 2nd, we'll be done. With our responses back. We now have the qualifications due on the 9th, which is a 2-week scheduled ad. So we were talking before, depending on how many we got, either shortlisting the 14th or the 21st.
I thought we had agreed sorry. You don't know when we discussed it.
Yeah, we're gonna attempt to do it on the 14th.
Do you think we should not?
It depends on how many we get. If we get 12, it'll be tough to do everybody we can make the decision when we see how many submissions we do have.
So my thinking was that, just explain to the group that if we got the final submissions due on April 2nd, that would give us the weekend, right, until
9th, yeah.
well, technically our next meeting would be on the 7th. We could do the reference calls then.
When's your spring break for school?
The
13th.
technically the 13th, but, so I think we have, is it a half day? No. Oh, you're right, it is just the 13th to the 17th. But the 9th would be when actually everything is due.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
sorry, but am I correct in understanding that the responses are due the 2nd?
The responses to the CM's questions, yes. Yeah, this is,
Okay, so wait, so the 9th is when they're released and that's the weekend that we call the references?
yes.
Okay, I switched those two around, I apologize. Okay, so then if everything is like the final, like everybody has to submit all of their questions, get everything answered. Just to summarize it, on the 9th is the last time that they can,
Submit their qualifications.
yeah, okay. And then we could potentially go do our reference questions and regroup on the 14th to do a short list. Or we could extend it to the 21st if we feel like that's rushed. But what we're trying to do, I mean, I feel like we should highlight this, is that we're trying to work backwards from a Board of Selectmen meeting on
Which is the
May
20th.
20th.
I think you have to figure,
And in order to get enough time to do that, we want to be sure that we've gotten our short list in and then had time for them to come in for the
Interview.
interviews before we then
Really
go
just
to
gonna
Board of.
depend on how many.
I think
Yeah,
you-
it's hard telling, not knowing.
I think you have to on the 21st, because you get on the 9th and you have spring break the following week. And if a lot of these school systems are on that, or the references and stuff, you're not gonna hear back from a lot
I
of
mean,
them.
as far as,
We're one of the latest.
we are one of the latest, a lot of schools have
A
already.
lot
done
of
this.
schools have already been and closed out their, yeah.
But
Most of them are doing them in March.
we
Most of
could.
them don't wait until April
we
anymore.
I
could
mean,
wait.
you also have to think about your breaks too, because, right, you rather.
I don't give a crap. I'm home with my children and an ailing father on surgery number 4. So I will gladly make phone calls on everyone's behalf to not listen to.
I will do what I can from abroad, and I have every confidence that Nicole could still.
I already
keep it
said I will
schedule.
take over Lauren's weight as far as
So if you think the
reference phone calls.
14th,
I have no problem with that.
if you think the 9th through the 14th
Just
is
because
enough
if we do
time?
the 14th,
Because we were on the
then
crunch time.
then we could give them, when did we say they would come in for the 28th?
Yeah, if we shortlist on the 14th, we'll do the interviews on the 28th.
Because they don't need
which is
3
2
weeks,
weeks.
like the architects do. And then that would give
It'll give an extra
us
week,
plenty of time to make sure that the contracts are good.
because we need to put the
and-
backup in the
Like-
14th of May for the
And-
20th.
You know how I feel on this. I'm all about time crunching right now. I know
Yeah.
that it sucks, but this is like the last push of us dealing with these interviews and this is.
This is the last heavy lift.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes.
We're still gonna have other RFQs,
going on.
RFPs,
Few
but
months, but there's some breathing room after that.
There will be some breathing room, and I would even,
Are you planning on doing a full day again?
well, I've already checked with Miriam O'Donnell, and there is something over at 501 Kings Highway East from 3 to 5 on the 28th. So we could do early in the morning and have a hard stop at 3, depending on how many firms we're bringing in. Or we have the HR room over there. I'm not
That's small.
familiar with that.
it is
It's
small.
small, you rather have.
It's not the
big room.
superintendent's room,
No,
right?
no.
Is it that size though?
No, it's a little
Smaller?
smaller. Yeah, it won't fit.
So
Because it all depends, I guess, then on how many we select.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, it
Like
depends
this-
on how many.
This all changed drastically after we found out that it is more than 2 most likely. We'll get another good grasp on the situation after this
But we
Friday
need
when you
at
host your
least 3.
when you host your Zoom meeting.
True. How many?
Yeah, how many more people should, like, obviously, I mean, I don't think Gilbane and O&G might show up again, but how many more do show up? And are they, like, we're gonna keep a list.
They'll be there.
They'll be there too, yeah.
They'll be there if they want the job, but you also have to think who's
Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay,
everybody knows we need to have a minimum of 3 in order to
Should
correctly
we
do the
receive
procurement
3 or
process,
more?
yeah.
Should we receive 3 or more,
more.
then we must do 3.
Correct.
If we only have 2,
Then we can just do 2.
like I pointed out to you, I was like, we can all call the references a lot slower then. We have
Why
from
not?
then until and then the presentation can be,
We're not getting less than 3.
no, I hope we don't. I'd like to have some options,
We
but.
don't get.
Peggy has her hand
more
up.
than
Oh,
12
Peggy!
shots.
Hi, just so you know, I am away the April 9th through the 15th,
Okay,
okay? So
okay.
if if you need a quorum, I won't be around. I won't even be able to call in. Okay?
Okay. Thank you
Thanks.
for letting us know.
Okay,
April 9th through the 15th.
right.
That I'm also going to be away from the 9th to the 18th, so I hear you. But I'm gonna try to make it work if we,
Yeah, so we
do
will,
some-
1, 2, John, so I will, well, and the other thing is, yeah, I'll make
Well,
sure to
there's 7
point
of
out
us,
to,
guys.
yeah, well, that's why I'll be sure to, like, Jason sitting here, what date is that meeting? That meeting then falls on the 14th? Jason, are you available to be here on the 14th?
I can be, so I
Okay.
will.
And I know things can come up. We'll get Jeff and John and Dina in the know that 2 people are on exclusive vacations that make it difficult to join in, and that we really need to
have everybody else.
have everybody else show up.
But I will also do my best to dial in. I mean, the only
Or you can do
tricky
your
thing
best to
is
hang out
that's
in
the
Italy.
day that my daughter actually sings at the Vatican, and I don't want to
I think
That
Yeah.
supersedes.
Yeah.
Family.
Peggy has her vacation and you have that going on. That is important and
It would be sad to just be like, I'm gonna
Family
step
first.
out for a second.
No.
No, family first. This is a volunteer.
that is a
position.
once, and that isn't even a once in a lifetime. That is like a once in 5 lifetime situation. You go listen to her.
We're excited. Okay.
I don't-
But does everybody understand the timeline, why we're trying to do the
Yes.
14th so that we can bring them back in on the
Yes.
28th for the in-person interviews?
Yep.
Otherwise, we did talk about the 5th.
The 5th.
And that would
Gives us
just,
a short run up to the 14th when we need the backup. And
the 14th is the backup for the Board of Selectmen meeting, like
Correct.
they have to issue the backup so that they can actually review it before they vote on it.
now, I mean, and in the grand scheme of things, the CM, the architects are going to be in schematic design during this time, and the CM is, while important, is not crucial to the schematic, conceptual design and schematic design. We need the CM on board mid-June at the latest, just so they're on board when the schematic design submission is provided and they can do their schematic design estimate and do their constructability review and comment on the designs and layouts.
Yeah,
That's when we need them on board.
okay.
We are pushing for the 20th, but it's not
It's not the
It's
end of the
not- yeah,
world
yeah, yeah.
if they're not with us on the
we're not
20th.
stopping the project if we don't make.
And in good faith, if they really felt like it, they could come, just like you guys did. Not that we would expect them to, but, okay. Let's try to see if we can stick to this new schedule. If something arises and we feel like we're really pushing it, and I'm gonna rely on you guys to kind of read the room and decide if you want to extend it to the 21st. I'm fine with that, that's fine. I can make as many phone calls as possible when I get back and
Okay. I got big girl pants on.
okay.
So
I
when
think.
when I send the schedule
Make sure I
out,
can
I'll,
talk.
I'll put, like the short list CM, I'll put it twice and I'll do like a number 1 and number 2.
Okay.
And the number 1 schedule will carry throughout, and the number 2 schedule will carry throughout.
Did you send the link to us as the building committee for Fridays if we want to log in just to listen?
I
Like
can.
I did the other time? Okay. Yeah, I just want, I like listening and seeing who was there and like if they had any questions, what they were.
Okay. So everybody is just clear what we're aiming for is in-person interviews on April 28th. And
Is there anybody that has a conflict with that as of right now?
anybody? Okay.
Cool.
We are going to try to book the room. I'm gonna try to get us in the big room and early. I think it's better for us for interviews to start early.
You don't have enough for a quorum.
Yes, we do. There's 4 of us. Peggy. One, two,
We're not
three.
voting.
Yeah, you're not
We're not
voting.
voting.
Okay, the 20th.
Yeah, Peggy. You heading out?
You're heading out. Okay. We're good. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna try, just to reiterate, I'm gonna try to get the interviews early in the day. I think it just serves us better to get an early start, like we did last time, right at 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
and get them done with. I don't wanna start at 2 and be like over at 8. I just
I'd
think
love to
that
try and
sounds
get it
like
down
torture.
to 3,
Yeah.
possible, so.
Okay, so I will go ahead and take care of booking the room. I'll try to see if I can get us in over there.
Oh yeah, going over there right up until 3 and book it, and if we use it up until 3, great, if we don't.
Well, we could always switch over like we did here to the smaller room if we needed. Okay. Number 7, open board discussion. Peggy, or I think John's off now too.
Yeah,
so
it's just Peggy.
Peggy?
Yep, no comment.
No comment, good. All right. Number 8, public comment. I always want to be sure to include this. I've said it for months, but I do care what everybody thinks about this. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, you have 3 minutes. Okay. Seeing no public comment, I vote to adjourn the meeting at 3:11. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Bye, Peggy.
Okay, thanks, bye.